Hey budget gardeners, Vita Loca here. Join me today as I show you how to divide Speedwell. So let's go. Speedwell, also known as Veronica, is hardy here where I live in New Hampshire Zone 5B. I made a video showing you my process for deadheading and cutting back the Veronica plant just so that it produces more blooms during the growing season. If you're interested in that video, check it out. I'll put it down in the description below. I originally bought just one of these plants, and over time I've divided and moved it around this one particular flower bed. And one thing that I'm noticing is it's late August, and as much as I love this plant in this flower bed, I want to add some additional pops of color. And I thought, how nice would it be if I replaced every other grouping of the Veronica plant and put a Rebecca, which is the Black-Eyed Susan Goldstrum, in its place. I'll be doing that project on a different date, so be on the lookout for that. But for today, I just wanted to show you my process for dividing this plant. It's the end of August, our weather is cooling down, so it's actually a perfect time for me to be doing this. Normally, when it comes to a lot of perennials, you want to divide them either in the spring or the fall time, depending on the plant, of course. But for me, right now is the best time for me to be doing this because I'm working on other projects. The key is I need to make sure I'm giving any plants that I dig up plenty of water, just so that the roots can establish themselves. And also, just like a lot of other perennials, Veronica can benefit from being divided every 3 to 5 years. It just makes for a more robust, healthier plant. So keep that in mind. If you have perennials that are just losing their luster, they're not blooming as much, one of the biggest reasons that happens is because the plant needs to be divided. Since I have mulch at the base of this plant, I'm going to go ahead and remove the mulch. I'll be using a large shovel to dig the plant up, and I'm going to be digging about 1 to 2 inches away from the base of the plant. I don't want to leave a big, huge hole here, so I'm going to go ahead and take off some of the soil from the base of this plant and just put it back where we've taken it. Let's clean up our mess. And now we've opened up a nice area to pop in that Rebecca plant. Anytime I dig up a perennial, I always like to first see, is it something that I can easily divide by tugging it apart? And in this case, I'm noticing that the roots are very tightly bound, so it's not a plant that you can easily tug apart. If you had a large clump of Veronica in your landscape, and let's say it was spring or fall time, and this plant was cut back all the way down, I would suggest if you just wanted one small chunk of it, you could take something like a large shovel and slice it right down through the plant and pull out a chunk of the plant as needed. However, since I wanted to remove the whole entire plant from that one area, it was better for me to go ahead and dig up the whole plant just like this. I love this tool. I use it a lot when it comes to dividing. It's a hand pruning saw. This one is by a company called Corona, but you can really use whatever you want when it comes to dividing a plant like this. So I'm just going to press this button here, and that opens up the handsaw. No matter what tool you use when it comes to gardening, it's always good to sterilize the tool before you go from plant to plant. And that just makes it so you're not spreading disease from one plant to another. And I like to use rubbing alcohol to sterilize my tools. Also, this is a sharp tool. You just want to be careful you don't cut yourself. I always like to turn a plant around to see where is the best place to make a cut. Where is there a division that I can see? And when I'm looking at this plant, I'm noticing right here would be a great place for me to go ahead and make the cut. Now, I want to make these divisions down to a single plant. It's really up to you how much you want to divide them down to, but I at least want to take this plant and divide it off from the rest of the plants here. So I'm going to go ahead and cut right through the center here. Now, I cut this down to a single plant, but I can assure you by next year, this single plant will turn into at least 2, if not 3, maybe more plants. It's a great time for me to go ahead and just remove any leaves that look dead. You can see right here would be another great place for me to go ahead and make a division. And I'm just doing a slight tug after I made the initial cut. I'm just looking around to see what's next, and I'm noticing with this one here, it's actually pulling right off because we probably loosened the roots around it. I just checked and there's nothing else that I can easily tug off here. So I can see right here, I can make a cut. And now we've loosened up the soil around this one here. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this one off. And notice this one here didn't come with a ton of roots, but that's okay. As long as you have some roots, it will go ahead and create more roots once I go ahead and get it planted. And we got 2 more plants there. Again, this one doesn't have a ton of roots, but we'll see. We'll see if it survives. It should hopefully be okay. And with what's left here, this piece here doesn't look very good. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it back. The next step is I'm going to be potting up all the plants that we just dug up. The reason is I do know where these are going to go. However, that spot is not ready yet. This next step that I'm going to show you would still apply if you took a plant division and wanted to put it somewhere else in your landscape. So just keep that in mind. I know these say proven winners. These are not proven winner plants. I'm just reusing or recycling some pots that I already had on hand as well as trays that I had on hand. For soil, I'm going to be using compost that I got for free from my local transfer station. Even though it sometimes has bits and pieces in it, free is free. I've used it for a few years and my plants have thrived in that soil. Even though I have divided the plants down to a single piece, you don't have to do that. You can definitely divide it to whatever you feel comfortable with. But what I've learned over many years of gardening is my plants just seem to thrive and do really well if I divide them down to smaller pieces. And then I don't need to divide them again if I don't want to for a number of years. So if I'm going to go through the effort of digging and dividing a plant, for me, it makes sense to divide it down to a single piece. And I know that when it comes to gardening, we all want big impact, right? I mean, I do too. So when I plant these in different areas of my yard, I'll be planting them all close to each other so that they still make big impact. However, there'll be enough room between each plant so that they can then grow on their own. And if I don't want to divide them for a few years, I don't have to. And I realize this pot is tiny compared to the size of the plant. It's okay. It will be going into a different area of my yard soon enough. So it's just a temporary holding spot for each of these plants. When it comes to how deep you want to plant your divisions, it's going to be as deep as it was from where you just dug up the plant or as deep as it was from a pot where the plant was in. You can see that the plant was pretty shallow in the ground. So as long as the roots are beneath soil level and is able to hold the plant up. So if I was to plant it in the ground, I want to have it at least this deep right here, just so that this very tall plant can support itself. I love to alternate between the names Speedwell and Veronica. Did you know that they come in different heights as well as different colors? So be on the lookout for that. It's not just that they're tall and purple in color and height. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you. And until the next video, make it a great day with gardening.